friends, welcome to today's video. So I wanted to sit down and chat with everyone because I have gotten a lot of questions and comments from a lot of people looking to kind of enter this entertainment industry here in Korea. And I guess that encapsulates a lot of categories: acting, modeling, singing, dancing, content making. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I feel as if having entered this industry myself, I do have some insight, and hopefully this helps a lot of people. I don't know if it will help you, but hopefully it does. The whole entertainment industry in Korea is actually very confusing to navigate, having experienced it firsthand, and there's a lot of anomalies to it and a lot of things that just really aren't standardized in a lot of ways. So I really do believe everyone's experience is going to be totally different, but maybe this will help you kind of get your foot in the door if you're interested. This is going to apply to both if you are in Korea already and if you're out of Korea. There are some instances where things do differ, and I will try to note kind of how it's different between each situation and what you would need to do differently. The first thing I would think about if you're definitely heading into this industry and you're looking to break in is to create some sort of portfolio for yourself. There are agencies in Korea that would sign someone, especially if you're like looking to be a model and you're just very attractive as a model. They might sign you just without any sort of pictures or portfolio, but I wouldn't really trust those agencies too much because most likely they're just going after you to take your money and scam you. No matter what you're trying to enter, make sure you have some sort of portfolio. If you're going to acting, maybe you want to act in some local productions or small time things. I know a lot of people record themselves for auditions and then they just put them up on YouTube, and then the agencies or casting directors can see the videos there. Now, what I did personally was I already had experience in a couple categories, so I made myself a little portfolio just to have and to make sure that if anyone asks, you know, like what could you possibly do, I had something to say, hey, I do stuff. That's kind of the first thing I want everyone to think about. It's not just breaking into the industry and suddenly you're gonna make it. Especially in Korea, I do think you need to have something, at least pictures and headshots, to show your marketability and to put yourself through for auditions. The next thing I want to sort of categorize or caveat is having some sort of financial nest for yourself, because whether you are in Korea already or thinking of moving to Korea to start your E6 visa, your entertainment visa, you're not going to be able to start working right away. There's a lot of things that need to be done before you can even start thinking about earning money. You want to have a financial nest for yourself, and I want to say you want to at least, I would say 6 months, honestly, because you are going to need to pay rent, you're going to need to pay insurance, which is mandatory here in Korea, health insurance. You're going to need to pay for phone bills because you need a phone to contact your agencies or people that you need to contact, to, you know, eat, pay utilities, XYZ. There's just gonna be so many expenses and you're gonna want to budget accordingly. Another thing to keep in mind is even if you do start working right away, the payment system in Korea is not always they pay you right away. Sometimes they'll pay you a month, 2 months later. So you're gonna need to make sure that in that interim time frame, you're gonna be okay. I would budget probably around $2,000, maybe $1,000 per month, depending on, I guess, where you're living rent-wise and kind of what you think you would be able to financially manage. And as always, there needs to be a little bit just in case of emergencies, because things always can arise, some situations always happen. So you're gonna want to make sure you have that much set aside before you even jump into this whole crazy thing. The third thing I want everyone to think about, you're going to find yourself an agency, yes. How it works in Korea a lot of times though is that the agency is not going to be able to get you consistent work all the time. So it's not really like how it works in America where all your jobs are through your agency or through your manager. It's not like that here. Most people I know, at least, they have to find their own work. Their agencies may be able to help them and connect them, but it's not going to be as much work as you think they're going to be able to provide for you. So if you're going to want to really do this thing and be able to financially sustain yourself, you're going to need to have the ability to find yourself work. So that's why I talked about this in a previous video I did with my friend Elaine. If you are curious, you can check that out because she's an actress here as well. And even she suggests if you are not in Korea, to come to Korea first, probably on a tourist visa, and get your lay of the land, make connections, meet people in the industry to really understand how the landscape here works. And if you are already in Korea, then you should do that now before you transition into entertainment. You're going to want to get some insight into the industry, how it works, the people that you should be talking to, and also most importantly, they're going to be able to help you determine which agencies are good, decent, and which ones you really should actively avoid. There are some Facebook forums where you can ask, but the way it works in Korea is you can't just outright ask someone, hey, what's your agency? Unless you really know them. And that's because people are really protective of their agencies, not because they don't want other people to be successful, but because they don't know you and they're not going to recommend you to an agency if you turn out to be kind of a bad talent or a bad person. Not one of those like, hey, just trust me, I'm really good. That's not really how it works. Just asking complete strangers, hey, what's your agency? Can you recommend me to yours? Is quite honestly not gonna get you an answer. I definitely think looking for agencies is one of the most annoying parts about all of this. A lot of agencies ask you to pay an upfront fee, an agency fee, visa processing fee, and it can cost a lot of money at times. Paying a fee is really not unheard of. It's technically not allowed, but it's very common here in Korea. So it's not, if an agency asks you to pay a fee, that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna scam you, because normal agencies also do that here. But that doesn't mean they're not going to scam you. So again, you want to be able to filter. Now, I always say if you find an agency, do some research, go on their Instagram, see who their talents are, go to their talents Instagram, see what they've been doing, and do your research first. If you think, or you're really on the fence after doing all of that, you can probably like DM or ask someone directly like, hey, there is this one agency, have you heard anything about them? So those types of questions are usually okay, even if you don't necessarily know the person that you're asking on a very personal level. So that's my advice on that. I hope that is kind of helpful. Agencies also, it's really difficult because they're always changing. I'm still like a little bit unsure. Someone explained this to me a few times and I'm still like, I don't really quite understand, but apparently agencies are ever changing. So, you know, like they make an agency, but then the agency maybe doesn't work out, so then the one person leaves, starts their own agency. So it's always kind of going like that. And people are always leaving, starting their own places or merging, and so that's why the landscape is kind of ever changing and ever growing, and it's a little bit hard to keep up. Hopefully that was helpful. I also talked about it briefly in my previous video about how I kind of filtered out the agencies that I was looking into. I can't just give you a list of agencies and say like these are the great ones, because that's just not how it works. And also I don't really know. Do you need to know Korean to become an entertainer in Korea? The answer is yes and no. So the short answer is no. You don't need to know Korean. You don't need to know Korean to live here necessarily, but if you're here, you should learn some Korean. It's not unhelpful to your cause. Knowing Korean definitely makes you a better candidate than not knowing Korean. So if you are still kind of debating on the transition and you have time, learn Korean. So the short answer is no, but my answer is also like, you should probably try and learn some Korean. At least enough to like get you by, have a simple conversation, things like that. But obviously especially with foreign talents who are foreign looking, not me. But I'm talking like if you're white, if you're black, Arab, Hispanic, just physically very visually different and fit into that foreign archetype that they've created here in Korea. A lot of roles are not going to be in Korean. So you not knowing Korean is not going to completely take you off, I guess, the selection list. There is the answer to that question. Another thing I want to point out is that your agency is not going to set you up here in Korea. So if you're not living in Korea and you want to move here with an agency, you're probably going to need to do everything on your own, like find housing, set up your bank account, set up your mobile, So keep that in mind. They are not here to handhold you through the process. Same thing if you're living here in Korea, you're going to need to have your own housing contract and have all of that set up already in order to then process all that paperwork that the agency needs to provide, and then you give them your paperwork. The reason people succumb and they end up paying their agencies is because the agencies do play a crucial role in getting your visa and allowing you to stay here. So the agencies have to get some paperwork approved by the Ministry of Culture to prove that you are going to be a talent that's going to be working and you're going to be contributing something back to the culture in Korea. Now, the other thing about E6 visas or entertainment visas that you should keep in mind is that a few years ago, if people came and got an entertainment visa, they could just get the visa, have it, and basically do whatever they wanted for the year. So if you had enough money in your bank account where you didn't actually have to work, you could just be on the entertainment visa for the year and not work and just kind of like live your best life. But they started cracking down on that not too long ago, but you have to be able to prove that you're making a certain amount of income, and it should be livable income. So I think it's roughly a million won, $1,000 USD, around that. You should be making that per month, and that's just to prove that you're working and you're making money and you're contributing to society. All that money should be funneled through your agency, so then they can provide the paperwork to prove to the government that you're working legitimate legal jobs here in Korea under your visa. And I think they have to send that kind of paperwork every 6 months. So keep that in mind, that when you do come here, again, that's why I kind of wanted to make a point that you want to be able to have a portfolio and be able to kind of have certain connections or be able to network enough to find yourself work, because you're gonna need to prove that you're working or else you can't keep your visa. It's a little bit intense. I know that's a lot of information, and I hope for whoever's watching this was somehow helpful. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer whatever I can answer down below, but again, I don't have the answers for everything. There's a lot of ambiguity. Yeah, good luck guys. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.